Hello, hello. Welcome to the 28 Digital Podcast, where innovation meets inspiration. I'm your host, Jonahs Duran, and in this space, we unravel the stories of remarkable individuals, businesses, and creatives who are shaping the digital and business landscape. Today, we have an incredibly talented guest, the founder and the creative force behind Oasis Photography and Branding Studio. She's a visionary, a storyteller through visuals, and a bit of a trailblazer in her industry. Please join me in welcoming Anngybel, the heart and soul behind Oasis. Insert applause, insert applause.
Insert applause. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. I'm so excited to do this. I'm so excited. I'm Anngybel. I am co-founder of Oasis Photography. I run Oasis Photography with my partner Minerva, and we are super thrilled to just be able to collaborate. We've worked really hard to build a solid and continue building a solid business where we're able to truly provide an experience not only for people looking for lifestyle photography, but also businesses. And I think that really is the core of what started Oasis. I won't dive into it right now too much, but in reality, we really just want to help brands elevate, their vision and actually bring their creative design to life. So we work with photography, we do short clip videography, and we do creative direction as well for brands and marketing campaigns. So I'm really excited to be working with Jonahs as well. He's done websites for our clients, and it's been a great journey.
Nice. Thank you. And thank you for kind of diving into, that's exactly what I wanted to kind of get into is how Oasis kind of came to be. You gave us some context. It's you and your partner, Minerva. And then it sounds like you guys have a mission statement and a kind of plan for the next few years and kind of what you want to go. But I did kind of want to dive back into that just because I know you do have previous experience in other industries, and you kind of pivoted into this and really started embracing it. So maybe if we could dive into that and kind of where you've been professionally and kind of what led you to this point.
Yeah. So I think to kind of backtrack the story, I always was in business, some sort of business management and paralegal area ever since high school. My first job ever was assistant to a paralegal. So I've always had like the business, like managing skills, but I always tapped into marketing and some sort of creativeness like on the side. So I always, in high school, I was in business technology and marketing. And throughout college as well, I was majoring in business management and marketing as well. So it's always been something that I've done on the side. Photography was also something I did on the side, but I never really thought it would become a business. I used to do it for fun. And I started off with my initial business, which was You versus Success. That was my first baby that I started. And I was like, okay, I do resumes and I edit like papers for people all the time. And I'm like constantly with I have a good eye for things. So
I was always... And then that must have come from the business and kind of a legal background and your attention to detail.
Correct. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, the attention to detail is huge in the legal field. So it was something that I definitely, it like crossed marketed both worlds. Nice. And yeah, no, I started You versus Success because I was genuinely doing people's resumes for free. And I was like, okay, I need to charge people to do this. And then that kind of really was the core of like what taught me of like what it takes to run a business or launch a business. But in reality, it also taught me that I loved what I was doing, but it was lacking creativity. So I honestly took a break from it. I just totally like cold turkey stopped, because I wasn't fully satisfied. I was like, okay, I'm doing things and I'm getting money for it, but like, this is not something I genuinely enjoy. And the way I kind of tapped back into photography was thankfully for my best friend. She was like, please do my maternity photos. Like, she didn't want to pay anyone and deal with people. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And that kind of was what brought in clientele. Like, I ended up making a TikTok video and I was like, oh, this is fun. Let me just make a video. And then I started getting inquiries and people were like, hey, like, how much are you charging?
Beautiful.
And I was like, Oh my God. So at the time I ended up contacting Minerva and I was like, hey, like, do you want to come do this photo shoot with me? I had met her through real estate. She was looking for venues
Perfect.
and locations for her business, and I was helping her out. So
Nice. So it was a kind of a perfect kind of timing there,
yeah, it
that
was
kind of
a
brought you together.
natural. Yeah, it was
Nice.
a natural collab. And I was like, hey, come with me. Like, you told me you were interested in photography. And we did that first session and we killed it. Like, we looked at each other and we're like, we have something here. Like, we should build off this. And honestly, the
And
rest was
was
history.
it I was just gonna say that must have been that's I have a similar story with people I've worked with where we're kind of like you can feel kind of the magic in the air in the
Mhm.
moment. You kind of know you're onto something way bigger.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of that moment. That must have been the moment you guys were probably taking photos and things were going really well, and you guys just gave each other that look like there's something here.
Yes.
So that's
Honestly,
incredible to
that's
hear.
exactly. And I'm so glad that you
Mhm.
get it. I feel like that's been a thing, like, since we've collabed. Like, we talk a lot about that, like, entrepreneurial, like energy, like that energy where
That
you're like,
spirit. Mhm.
yeah, and you're like creatively always like hustling and like looking for alternatives to ways to grow. And I think you just know when you meet someone, you know if they have it in them or not. And I think that was kind of
100%.
like the core of it. Like, it was like, we have something here. I was like, let's sit and let's like come up with a logo and a name and let's just launch it to see where it goes. And
Momentum.
it was momentum. And in the meantime,
Yeah.
I was like doing um social media management for a client of mine, and
Nice.
at
I just
the
want to go ahead and stop you and just recognize how many skills you picked up along the way.
I know.
Um, just especially to our guests or anybody who's kind of ready to kind of take that leap creatively or into a career, something they've never done before. You need to just do it.
Mhm.
Just how you mentioned all of these skills, different things you've done, and kind of dip your foot in because you don't know what you're gonna fall in love with. So it's sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to acknowledge that's really part of it of just taking action of just believing in yourself to do it. Because even with you with versus success, it sounds like you didn't stop because there wasn't business. It just wasn't fueling you and giving you kind of that life force that when you're really doing something you love. Versus it sounds and when I'm working with you directly, I can see how passionate and how much you love what you're doing now.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it's crazy because like going back to that, that moment is frustrating. Like, I feel like we should definitely clarify like that
Of
moment.
course.
I was devastated because I was like, I started something, I was really excited about it, I was so driven
Mhm.
about it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, nah. And it kind of felt like a moment of like, am I giving up on myself? Like, am I giving up on this? Like, I really had to take time to genuinely disconnect and like tap into myself. And like sometimes that means just like kind of living life and like getting back to your family and friends and like doing little activities until something again triggers like your passion.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did. I just let it rock because I was like, that it was frustrating. I was very like,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm very hard on myself and I was disappointed. I was like, wow, that went nowhere. But it was all part of like God's plan. Like, it ended up, creating such a even stronger foundation for Oasis, which was huge.
It's the journey. It's part of the journey. And we consider it because we're harsh on ourselves. We're critical of ourselves. We consider it a failure, and you're like, "Why did I do that?" I say that because even for my own path,
Mhm.
I've been freelancing for years, and now I have 28 Digital. But it's not my first time trying to kind of get it up and running. Kind of form a business around it. I did it a couple of times, and in my personal opinion, I failed because I didn't hit the ground running. I didn't have a million clients right at all at first and people running to me. Um, but it takes kind of those failures of, what, I'm not marketing myself correctly. I don't have the necessary skills. Let me go back to the drawing board. Or the one we just mentioned, if I'm not passionate about this, this is cool. I found out about how to make money this way and maybe how to productize it, but this doesn't serve me. I don't want to do this long term. And you don't realize it until you actually start doing it. So
Yeah.
while we
And I
consider them
guess,
failures, they're huge leaps in progress.
yeah. And I do want to ask you, like, based on that, because even just like your journey, like you've been freelancing forever, which means like your skills honestly have just gotten better with time. I feel like, do you run into this roadblock? Because I feel like I'm running into this now where I have Oasis. Oasis is my baby, but it's my baby of skills that I have like nurtured for years since, again, I was probably 15, I would say. And you have a hard time like when you start like 22 digital, and I start Oasis. It's like people think you're starting from like from now. They're like, oh, all of a sudden, like, oh, you do web design now. That's cool. You only have X, Y, and Z followers. Like maybe you don't have the skills, and it's like, no, I do. It's just I just started pouring out my work through this avenue.
Yeah, it's the phenomenon of the overnight success. People don't see the work. They don't see the work, and you say overnight success because you only have so many followers, but they don't know how much work has been put into that, how many years. I say that I think you verbalize that perfectly. Because that's the biggest thing is kind of showing my expertise in my field, because people have that. I am just launching the company now, or recently. So I was just representing myself as my individual, my personal brand, you can say. And that doesn't carry the same weight as necessarily as a company or someone who's a business owner. But you also have to go against titans in this industry or people who are established social media wise. Just because I know of other web design companies, other web development companies that have 100 followers, 200 followers, but they're clearing $500,000 to $1 million a year, So there's kind of it's both ways, because you want the social credibility and the boost that comes with social media, but you have to remember that those things don't necessarily validate your skills. It's everything else around it. How can you create or solve problems for businesses? How much money can you make them? Things that move the needle. And sometimes followers is not that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a big point of that too is like, in reality, it all comes down to like experience, like the experience that you make the consumer feel. And sometimes word by mouth is like how our clientele flows in, like, oh my God, I had a great photo shoot, I want to go in. Oh my God, she literally took great branding photos, I want her. And that has been the best form of referral. It's just interesting. It's an interesting feeling to battle when you've been doing something for so long, and then you feel like, compared to other professionals on social media, you don't have the credentials, but you're like, you could provide the experience like top tier.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's so easy to fall into that, any type of comparison, because, they say comparison is a thief of joy. But at the same time, this is business, and you need to know where you stand competitively. You cannot just be delusional and say, I want to be the biggest, enter blank, and not know what the bar is, what kind of standards, what are they doing. With that said, though, you also have to keep in mind and give yourself credit where you can. And I say that because you want to step up to these big companies, but you don't realize they have a team of maybe 30 people on full-time salaries, and they're spending millions or hundreds of thousands to get things done. When, I mean, I can speak for my team, it's 2 of us, and we can do a lot, then because we share so many skills because we can do so much, we accomplish a lot between the 2 of us. And I'm sure you can relate where between you and Minerva, you can accomplish what you need to accomplish. It's not 30 people. It's not a bunch of payroll. You're kind of figuring it out. And there's magic in that, that you can do so much with so little resource when you compare them, of course.
No, that's those are things that you have to come to terms with when you realize like what it takes to run a business, and you realize everyone has a different hat and a different role. So it's like, yeah, you're right. You can like, right now I have, let's say, a team of 3. I have Minerva, and then I have Alondra as a stylist. And it's like, it's great collaboration, and the work just flows, but it's like, again, that constant battle of like, wow, we're doing all of this with just 3 people. Like, imagine what we can do if we had a team of 10. I guess.
And you have to go through the growing phases, because there are, I mean, personally, I have the goal, or professionally, I have the goal of becoming a top-notch delegator, because honestly, that's what a founder or CEO, the operating person is you delegate. You need to fire. The best saying I've heard is you need to fire yourself from as many positions as possible. So
Yep.
train as many people, build systems so that you don't need to be doing those things. So you can focus on your company, really focus on what you want to do, onboarding other people, making sure your team culture, there's so much that goes into it, but just like you said.
Yep.
I was gonna ask you because I am interested, and you had mentioned you not have like a stylist you offer with your services, but we can pivot into that because I do want to learn way more about your business. I'm from the web design world, and while our worlds kind of interlap because we're in digital marketing, what you do is not different from what I do. It's just a different kind of lens. So I do want to hear kind of more about the company, just in terms of your services, and then what the kind of team structure is. Because you had mentioned, having certain roles, you have certain skills, Minerva has certain skills, Alondra may have certain skills. So what does that look like altogether, and what's kind of that dynamic like?
Yeah, so I have, we've had this conversation before, and I think my biggest thing for Oasis, my dog is trying to come into the frame. Bronx, get down. I would say like my biggest mission for Oasis is to genuinely provide a one-stop shop for, these brands and these businesses, so they can genuinely come in and say, okay, I have this vision of doing X, Y, and Z. And we can ultimately provide the experience where it's like, great, well, we have a creative director and a videographer and photographers and a stylist. And like you literally show up and we will do everything for you from start to finish until the final product. I think that is like my biggest mission. So as I'm building Oasis, I keep that in mind every time. And I think you made a great point how you said you have to delegate as much as possible.
Yeah.
There's like there's this groove where you have to find where you're delegating and also like making sure that you're adding the right people to the team that have like the same passion. I'm very big on energy. So if I feel great energy from you, I'm like, let's do it. Let's collab. Let's go. Because I know that magic comes from that. And that's kind of how, me and Minerva started that way. It was strictly energy. We bloomed off that. And Alondra, I've been friends with for a while. And I know she had that passion where she was always styling for people on the side. And I was like, there would be plenty of clients that would come to us that have this vision. And we're like, great, like this, we create a mood board. And our job as photographers is to set up like the backdrop and the vibe and the aesthetic. It's not really our job to like say, hey, purchase this and purchase that to wear, because that makes a huge difference. And I realized I was running into that issue. And I think part of running a business as well is like realizing the daily issues and finding solutions or services for them. So
I'm sorry before you get back into it, I was just going to highlight that this is the most important part of starting and getting real world experience.
Yep.
You don't learn that lesson until you start doing photo shoots. You can maybe learn it from a mentor or something, and they can maybe talk to you about it, but you learned it in real time and you're seeing the issue and you're actively like, I need to fix this. So I think that's the genius move of being like, hey, I'm going to go source a stylist, and obviously having someone in mind. But yes, exactly. I just wanted to highlight that that's the beauty of actually doing what you do.
And it's actually the hardest part that people like, even takes us time. It took us time, but it's like you really just have to do something. You do it, and then after you can assess what went wrong and what can you fix. Until you don't do, you won't know. So yeah, I was running into those issues, and I was like, Alondra, like, pitch the idea. I really think I know. Again, energy. I know that she's passionate and is so good at what she does. And I wanted that energy on the team. So, we added her on, and it's been, people hire her as a stylist. It makes the entire experience of their photo shoot, elevated. The actual outcome of the photos is elevated because everything is coordinated and planned strategically. And I think
that's beautiful.
Building off that is like that's the energy that I'm flowing in now. And I really just want to have like a collaborative team. I guess like on here, I'll give a little hint about we are going to have another person on the team, and I'm so excited about it. Again, it's like meticulously planning. So we're able to delegate, but also like pass on the Oasis message and experience and make sure that everyone's grasping that, because that's what's going to keep
Nice.
our clientele, coming back in. And I think, like you said, it's been a learning experience. And I feel like I ultimately have this huge vision for Oasis, but I'm kind of just also enjoying the flow of things and like how it's
Yeah,
growing organically. And I think sometimes as a perfectionist, it's hard for us to do that because we want to have control and organization and everything.
of
But
course.
honestly, I'm living in the moment and just seeing the growth, seeing where it goes, seeing the collaborations, and just kind of like fruitful from there.
Of course, of course. I was just gonna ask: is there obviously because there's so much of the business, um, and there's so much to consider. You're building the team actively. Up to this point, what do you think is your favorite aspect of everything that you're doing? You know, all the hats you're wearing. What do you think is the number one thing you want to lean into? And then I'll ask the opposite. There's a two-parter. What's the one thing you want to get away from as much as possible? Whether it's delegation or eliminating it from kind of your business model. You know, now that you're in the brand identity kind of path.
I would say, yeah, that's tough. That's a tough question because
Ah,
I love a
I just
lot.
thought of that one. I wish I could say I wrote that down, but I just thought of that one.
You did not write that one down.
Yeah, yeah,
um, but no, it's a great question because I love so much of what I do now. And it makes me happy that you even say like I can see your energy and you're excited about this because I do hear this a lot, and
yeah,
sometimes it genuinely is what keeps me going because we have hard business days and we're like, oh my God, like we're drowning, we're literally drowning. And sometimes, just hearing that from someone else is really what keeps you going. And
yeah. I know people don't you know entrepreneurship of any regard, business, be owning a business can be glorified a lot, and you know we romanticize it
yeah.
because it's part of it. There is beautiful parts about it, but it's rough, especially day to day. There's so many problems to fix. It's overwhelming. Thankfully, we both have people we can kind of turn to and vent to about these problems because not a lot of people can relate to you or what you're doing. Sometimes you're going through stuff that's really confidential that you can't necessarily share with friends. So it's
Mhm.
nice to have a partner.
It
Um,
really is. Yeah. Having a
yeah,
partner makes things a lot easier. In general, I think having a team, like I'm very big on like, you can try to build an empire on your own, but like with a village, like you will build a legacy, like something like way more permanent, longer. And it's just great to have creative minds. So I think I would say like my favorite part of Oasis definitely has to be it's like the providing the experience for the client. Like I nothing feels better than whether it's a photo shoot or someone with a brand and they're like they kind of lacked confidence. They didn't know like what they wanted to do and they didn't have any expectations of what their product photography will look like or what their logo would be. And then it's like you deliver your work and they are just baffled with like, oh my God, you
yeah,
created this for me, like out of my vision and my thoughts. Or simply the simple experience of someone coming in and being like, this is my first photo shoot. I'm so nervous. And then like at the end of it being like, I feel so good. I feel so confident. Making people feel good has always been like what's driven me.
that's
So
beautiful.
I think that is why I love what I do because I could provide that good feel experience in different ways. It doesn't have to be like strictly photography. It can be so many different things. And I guess I would say also the collaboration of
Yeah,
like, even our collaboration, just simply like you
yeah,
have doing a website for one of my clients. It's like that that was great because we built like a great relationship. We're like able to like bounce ideas off each other and like collab on certain because you are such a pivotal part in my clients journey as well, creating a professional platform where they showcase their work and their portfolio is like ultimately what everyone that comes to Oasis wants to do because we kind of do the
yeah,
basic branding, we launch it for them, we start managing their social media, and then overall they're going to need that like bam, website. They need traffic, they
yeah.
need sales.
And it works both ways. And this is what I always talk about with my clients whenever I have somebody who comes to me with a website. we pride ourselves on delivering the vision. But what people really don't understand about websites is the assets and how it looks previously. And I kind of want to get into this just because what is brand, these are, to us, we talk about this stuff day to day. It's second nature to us. But I do like to explain it in simpler terms to people of like what we're trying to do. And when I talk about websites, the first thing I'm asking a client for is their logo, if they have one, because I know that you have some type of branding, some type of, whether it's color identity, which is your actual color schemes and things of that nature, and your photos, because nothing makes or breaks a website like photos. So obviously the higher quality, the better you are. It just boosts conversion. It boosts people staying on your website, actually buying stuff. And this is why kind of our partnership in this case worked so well, just because a lot of the time when people approach me for a website, they don't have these things. They don't have the assets. Whether it's as simple as a logo, and logos aren't simple. They can seem simple, but there's some thought that needs to go in, a lot of thought that needs to go into it. And same thing with your colors, same thing the way you present yourself online, especially when we're talking about a professional kind of identity. So this is why it's awesome to be able to work with you. That our first time working together was with a recent client in real estate. And that was awesome to execute. You handled everything asset wise, and I was able to deliver all the technical aspects. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention that, and also give you the platform to kind of dive into if someone doesn't understand what is brand identity, kind of what is it that you really do, and what are the services that you guys provide.
Yeah. So I think to add on to what you were saying too, I think the experience of also like teaching a client what branding is and the value of a website is huge for them. But I will say, like, my most favorite thing about working with you guys is like you also walk me through it, because I am not a web designer, and I'm not a web designer. So I learned so much just through the process of us working together. And I say like, hey, Jonahs, I don't understand this. Or like, we have this crazy vision of what we want to add, but like, is it even possible? And you explain like the pros and cons, and we pivot. That is so crucial to me, because I feel like nowadays, I can just take my client's vision and like probably submit a form online on a random website and get a random, result. But like the experience of having that, again, I'm huge on energy and experience, and that's huge because they feel more comfortable. That's their baby, they're launching something, they're investing in it and really like hoping it's going to turn out well. So providing that is a huge thing that I'm extremely grateful that we have like this partnership where we can do that. I think
I appreciate that. I want to say I appreciate that only because in terms of talking about like real world experience and doing this over time, when I first started doing this, all I would do is throw technical terms at people, nonstop. Oh, this is what I can do. This is what I can do. Not realizing that people don't understand what it is that we do, and they don't have the interest nor care about what it is, So when I started looking at things as a business owner and simplifying things and like putting it in analogies and really kind of simplifying everything, is when it really started to click, because people are understanding the problems I'm fixing versus like, hey, look at all this technical knowledge that I have.
Because the technical lingo is hard. Like there was times I vividly remember you would send me something and I'm like, is this in English? Like what am I even reading? And it's, you guys are talented. What you do is not an easy thing. So it's like, again, I'm grateful for that, because it makes it simpler for me, which makes me more confident with my client as well. I would say as for branding, it's just, we work with different businesses at different stages, like we have had people come to us and they are very new, like they created like a quick little logo on Canva. They don't really know their colors. They're just like kind of like diving into ideas. And I will say, like, I will say this publicly so everyone knows, like, sometimes we have told people like, yeah, this is awful and we're starting from scratch, like whether you like it or not. And I think that's valuable. Like, I can easily take a client and be like, yeah, that logo sucks, but I just want to get paid and let me just keep this going. And it's like, no, we have to backtrack, because you need to start from a place where you have much more, I would say, like, just a high value service, high value product. So I think branding honestly comes down to, like, I always like start with people and I say, like, what is the core, like, feeling and message that you want your business and, to make your clients feel, or your product to, like, bring out in people. And we work with clients that are literally starting, and that's something that, where we start, like you mentioned, we start with colors. That's really what branding is. It's colors, fonts, and your logo. It's like the core basic. From there, you can build Instagram pages, you can start building some content, some scheduled posts. But in reality, it comes down to also, like, your personality, the message behind you. I feel like people sometimes don't realize that right now, we there's so many, like, businesses, there's so many people out there, like, with so much stuff. If you don't personalize your business and your experience, you're just going to be another dust in, like, a huge pool. It's like, and I think that's something that, like, that's also how we filter out the clients that we want to work with. And
or people who aren't ready to work with you. I think that's important to kind of talk about, because no today, or maybe like you're not necessarily ready, is really what it is. It's not necessarily like we don't want to help you. It's just that you're not necessarily at that point. And I can relate, because I have a similar kind of processing or filtering process, just because my services are pretty niche. People need websites, but not everybody needs the same capabilities, the same features. And that's important to get into. And then there's people who sometimes just come with a way too early idea, and they don't understand exactly what they're selling, who they're selling to. A lot of the times we can kind of help them narrow that down, but unless we can narrow that down together, then sometimes it's not necessarily the best time to do it. And we send them back to the drawing board, because that's happened to me. People come to me with an idea. I'll tell you exactly how we can execute it, but they don't necessarily understand. They don't really necessarily aren't passionate about it. They don't really understand it themselves, and they'll revisit me. I'll give them some advice. They'll revisit me in 6 months, a year, and it's a way more fleshed idea. They're way more confident. There's a business plan, and those are the best people to work with, because they're taking it very serious.
Yeah, and I think, again, what you even you just providing them feedback with what needs to be done is so valuable to any client, that it's like, of course they're going to come back and work with you, because you could have easily just been like, oh, where's your business at, or where's your brainstorming at? Yeah, that's not going to work. See you later. And not even provide them with anything for them to actually, grow. And I think that's what makes us different from, like, we actually care. And then there's brands out, there's so many people that are doing what I do that just genuinely want the dollar sign. They just want to get paid, and they will post whatever on your page to get paid. And I feel like, and it's interesting, because you could have people too that, like, come to you, and I'm sure you do too. Like, you probably have people that come to you with a website done, but it's totally a wreck, and you're like, oh my God, I have to fix this. And it's kind of, we have clients like that as well, that it's like, reach out to us, and it's like, okay, they have a pretty solid following, and let's say they have somewhat of a good, income coming in monthly. But let's say, like, all their posts are just, like, the quality's awful, and we're like, oh my God, well, it's great that you have this following in this business, but, like, we have to erase literally everything on your page, so it's I think it's also that putting on that thinking cap for our clients, and being like, what is best for you at the moment, and working a plan from there. I think that's the beauty of having a branding studio, where you can, like, I can look at a client and I know instantly if they're ready to, like, speak with you about a website or not. It's like having that guidance, again, is what provides the ultimate experience for the customer. That's kind of what I want to, we want to live up to every day.
100%. It makes makes the world of difference. And speaking to that, we are humans at the end of the day. We are people behind these brands. We call them brands or companies, but we are people. We work with people. And then looping back to something we were talking about earlier, just in terms of, like, how do we get clients and stuff? I want to say up until 2 weeks ago, 100% of my client base was referral based, which is insane to say after freelancing for years, having a few dozen kind of clients, but I've always been referral based. I haven't marketed myself necessarily on social media. My website wasn't even fully up at one point. It was just like a simple landing page, nothing too captivating or, too crazy. And I say that just because that's how important it is to create a incredible experience for your customer, because everyone knows somebody, and that's literally how it works. I mean, even with yourself, I know I've known you for a few years, but because of me posting, I believe that's what it was, me posting over the years, random website stuff, not necessarily like hardcore marketing myself, but random things, about websites, and it came to mind. I mean, talk about branding is important and like association, but definitely.
Yeah, that was actually exactly how it happened. I remember, like, I was just like brainstorming, and I'm like, who does websites? And then I was like, Jonas, like, I've seen him post, like, yeah, you're right. And it wasn't even like you were pouring out pieces of content every day. Like, I just remembered you had posted a few times, and you would post like behind the scenes, and I'm like, let me just connect with him. And I'm glad I did, because again, it's a huge, I like to know who I'm working with. I don't like to just send off my work to people and be like, yeah, please provide me with the best service, but I'm like, I can't even put a face to your name.
And
so
I mean, even in my business, I know it's big, just because I become the point of contact. I'm their expert. All things technical, all things website, I'm their expert. And they're not calling a hotline. They're calling me, they're texting me. And I don't have a traditional kind of 9 to 5 structure. Clients will text me at midnight, 1 a.m, like, I have an idea. I have this genius idea. I have this new thing I want to, and I love that, the fact that they're passionate about it and they're reaching out to me and like, let's act on this as soon as possible. And people have ideas, they want to call me. It feels amazing, because that's kind of what I've branded myself in, just helping people out with whatever the idea is. And again, it's not necessarily a customer today, or maybe they don't go with me and they just need help kind of fleshing out the idea. But in 6 months, a year, they have a friend, someone they know. And, that means the world to me when we're talking about a like relationship-based business.
And I will keep emphasizing that, like, that is your biggest, like, working with you. I think technically you can say we've worked together, for 6 months now? I don't know.
Yeah, 6 months, 7 months.
Yeah. And I genuinely feel like it's just like, you just make it such a safe space to take on such a scary task. I am literally in the branding industry, and I will genuinely say, like, even building a website, and I mean, we've already talked about this briefly, but it's like, I already have this vision for the Oasis website, and it's so big that it scares me. It overwhelms me. And I am grateful that you provide a safe space, like, for me, for my clients to be like, okay, like, let's narrow it down, like, calm down. You have these ideas, but let's start here. And it's like, okay. And you can see the process building, which is honestly, like, ultimately huge for us.
No, I appreciate that, and then likewise for me, because, we do design aspects and we've made logos and things of that nature, but it's not necessarily what fuels us or things that we want to necessarily do or dive our attention into, because we are leaning on the other side of digital marketing, which is the actual website, email marketing, automation, a little bit more technical things. And what we do also, web design is creative. To get it done efficiently for clients, to be able to say, you know what, you don't have the necessary photos. You have certain products, but the photos aren't up to par or don't necessarily do what we wanted to do or match your branding. To be able to be like, you know what, I have someone you can work with and redirect them to you. It's been a couple of times people have reached out for marketing assets and things of that nature. And then to just be able to say, hey, I have somebody here, go ahead. DM them, and obviously you guys are super active, and which is something I have to learn, and I'm trying to reverse and get better about. But posting, you guys post actively, behind the scenes, which is awesome to see. And you guys do all types of photo shoots, from what I've seen, with maternity shoots with kids, even pets. Those things are really endearing, and it's awesome to send clients to you guys, and your feed is just full of all the different things that you're doing.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I think it is interesting. Like I said, I'm enjoying the moment in time of where Oasis is at, because I literally was like photographing dogs yesterday, and it's like that's cool, and it really challenges my skills. I learn a lot, but I don't know what Oasis is going to grow into, and it might, become a smaller niche, and we might have to, remove some services. But like right now, I am just enjoying the flow of like the growth of it. So, thank you. Yeah, we do take a lot of work and pride. I mean, it's every morning. What are we going to post? How do we want it strategically, perfectly posted, like aesthetic? And,
Yeah.
but, I try to incorporate at the end of the day, like you said earlier, like we're humans. And,
Yep.
I am a 28-year-old trying to literally start this, business that I have, and the business idea that I have. And it's hard, it's hard. It gets overwhelming. Life happens, things happen in life. And it's like, you're really just trying to like really push through and survive. I think it's like, again, I'm grateful that it fuels me in a way where I can genuinely just like feel good about making other people feel good.
Yeah, and I mean, you're on the right path, and there's nothing more validating than obviously getting paid, but
Yeah.
it's those referrals, those testimonials, people texting you afterwards.
Mhm.
For me, I know yours is more in real time, only because you're taking the photos for them, and some I'm sure you can show them, they feel the magic, and if you have a
Mhm.
stylist and other people that you're adding to the environment, you're curating this amazing space and experience for them. So I'm sure you get that feedback in real time. For me, it's a little bit different just because it's website launches. When we actually launch, we try to turn around websites really fast. Sometimes assets take time and there's
Mhm.
left turns and we need to build other stuff. So when we actually publish the website and it's live, there's a magical moment. And, I get those texts of like, we did it. It was
Yeah.
similar with you when we launched our client's website, but, it's a huge milestone
Yeah.
for businesses, whether it's a small business or a bigger business, because they're leveling up.
Yeah.
So they're
No.
establishing that professional presence, that online presence, and whether it's branding or the website, it's just a huge moment. And you're part of that. You can kind of feel the magic. I always pop an imaginary champagne because it's a digital asset. I don't necessarily have anything to give them, but yeah, it's an
I
awesome
mean,
feeling.
no, yeah, but it's like you create
It's
oh,
so
that's funny.
awesome.
We can mention a digital oasis for them. That's,
Digital
it's
Oasis,
like, it's their moment
perfect.
where, it's true. It's like that is them on a web page as creatively as
Yeah,
possible. And I think, yeah, you're right. Yours is more like of a build up for the excitement, which I think is like
yeah,
both ways. It's still kind of cool. Like it's like, yeah, and you
of course.
provide like little dabs of like excitement for people, like as you're working on the website, vice versa. Like at the, like you said, at the photo shoots, or like if we're doing product photography, we send them snippets. But like the ultimate product, once you deliver and people are like, oh my God, like I had a vision and you exceeded it, is like, that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, and it fills us with joy,
Yeah.
those moments. And like you said, like a lot of things are nurtured. It takes time. It's nurtured over time, and um, whether it's a friend or family or someone who's referred, you're in on their vision. And same thing with you, because people are entrusting you with their family photos or their loved ones. And then you do brand identity, so their businesses. And just like you said, you versus success was your first baby. This is how
Yeah.
people feel about these things. They're their babies and they're nurturing them and growing them. And when they make the investment, because that's exactly what it is. When they make the investment to work with us, it's not instant gratification; it's delayed gratification with the huge return on investment. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
I want to tap into that a little bit. Like let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about the idea of making an investment into your
Yeah.
business. I feel like for both of us, both of our clients, and it's the same world where it's like initially people can approach you because they get excited about what they see or what they've heard about
Mm-hmm.
you. But once it's their turn to sit and say, like, assess where they're at and what it's going to cost and what the process is going to be, people get scared.
I mean, you hit it. It's an overwhelming. You hit the nail on the head. It's an overwhelming process. It's big shoes, and like, yeah, some people don't understand what we do, and it's a big process of educating. But also, it's big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're at, you have a million things going on. You're a business owner. You're selling stuff. You're managing clients. And then when you come to me, I try to make the process as easy as possible. But that first session is not, it's a casual conversation. You know, I'm trying to get to understand your business, but I have questions. And, you know, we get really into the deep of it, and you really need to understand your business, because then I can't do my job if you don't know the basics of who your ideal client is, you know, what's your messaging, which is important to work with companies like yours. How are you trying to present yourself, you know, just as an example. So, you know, it's an educational process. And then you also have to get into the actual cost of things. And they're paying you for your expertise, you know. Something that takes us an hour doesn't cost, you know, the lowest price, because it took us years to learn. And it's the return on investment. Just because I did it fast doesn't mean it was easy. I'm just very skilled at it. I have a process behind it. And that's a big part of it. And to be fair, people are, I'm using ignorant, but not negatively. People are ignorant to the prices and things, that the actual cost of things, because a lot of times it's their first time, you know. They may be your first point of contact for this type of service.
Exactly.
So,
I sorry to cut you off, but like I think you're right. Like it's a lack of knowledge. It's like that's where the ignorance is. It's like, and we've all lived through it. I feel like we are better at it because we have tried businesses and freelancing, and you know, we've dabbled into this world.
And then just to give it like an analogy, is not everybody knows everything about in every industry. Like, I don't know what airplane parts cost, you know, just a random thing that I have nothing. I don't know what airplane parts cost and what mechanics need to get paid. And, you know, it's an industry I have nothing to do with, have no idea. I don't know where to start. And that's the same mentality when they come to us with these services. You know, they may know people or buy t-shirts all the time or pants online all the time. And they can see the price of pants is kind of like from $50 to $100 or a little bit more, depending on the brand. But what we do isn't something you just check out on Amazon, you know. That's why it's a very niche conversation. It's very nuanced, because not everybody needs the same thing. And while our prices start somewhere, you know, with these big visions that our clients have, you know, sometimes if the vision is huge, but the budget isn't as big. So it's just about like, all right, so if you want to get this done, this is how we can do it. But you got to not cut some corners, but you got to trim some of the vision. So, you know, it's kind of like that balance of educating them. What do they actually want? Because sometimes people come to you with this huge idea. I want to do this and this and the other. And once you start to poke holes and ask questions, they'll just, you know, they'll realize themselves, or you can tell them like, that's not really what you're looking for.
And they will. I feel like I want to like bring it out in both perspectives of like our clients, and also like, you know, anyone out there that's trying to be an entrepreneur as well and start a business. It's like, it's so hard as an entrepreneur to say no to a client. But like you said it perfectly. It's like they'll have this big vision and this small budget. And you're like, you know, at that point, you basically end up doing the entire project for free. Like, and you just get like some sort of like deposit fee, let's call it. And you have to learn as an entrepreneur. And I think like having these years of skills and like failure and like in and out and getting back up and rebuilding and rebranding, you realize like, it's like, you know, my work is valuable. Like how you said, I did it. Yeah, I did what I had to do for you in 45 minutes to an hour, but that took me 3 years to like perfect. And you're paying me for my expertise, not like, you know, like what I'm doing in a timely manner, let's say. And I think as for our clients, I think it's also like, I always say this to people because I feel like I'm very confident in what I do, that I'm like, you know, we're going to have our initial conversation and you ultimately decide who you want to work with. But like, I will always tell people like, my advice is work with someone that actually like gives a shit, you know, that gives like cares and has been through this thing. Like I said, like you've been freelancing, you know what it's like to, you know, work on different softwares, and you've done it for years. And like when it comes to me, like it's like I've had different marketing projects. I know what doesn't work. I failed at this. I stopped doing You versus Success. I rebranded a whole new business. Like you have to really like, we have to give ourselves credit and be like, wow, we've done this for like all these years and we have these credentials, and be confident enough to look at our clients and be like, I can already predict a problem before you even think of the problem, because I have been through that experience, and that is what's going to provide you a top-notch service, for
Yeah.
building your brand and your baby. But if this is too much for you, if you think it's too expensive, like, feel free to venture and, find someone else. But I just am very confident in what I'm providing to you, which is why it's, priced or packaged at where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And, it's natural. It's consumerism. But people will just come, sometimes you're their first point of contact. They have no idea what things cost. You kind of educate them. You have your certain prices. And it's important to stand on it and just be like, this is my price. I say that because, it's tempting. You mentioned it earlier. It's very tempting, especially with friends and family and people, to just be like, all right, your budget is this small, but this is what it's going to cost. And this is what we actually charge. And, you want to be like, I'll bring it. You know what? Let me give them a discount and maybe we can do this and accommodate it. But at the end of the day, it's not worth it, because you're compromising your own business. You're compromising what things cost. You're cutting into your own profit and your own pocket. And it affects the quality of the actual project. Because if they went to anybody else, that person would want to deliver a top-notch project, and you want to do the same. And you can't do that if you're compromising.
Yeah. And I think it also creates a bad chain of, like we were talking about, a lot of our clients are word of mouth. Like, I don't want someone, going out there and being like, wow, she did this for so cheap, you should go for her. Like, cheap is not the reason you should be in my office talking about anything. Like, we should be talking about like the results of like your return of investment, and what I actually like, what you actually paid for the return of investment that you received that maybe exceeded what you even planned for. That's what you want to hear as like a, top-notch business owner. I feel like that's what really makes the difference.
And people at this point, I used to find a lot of resistance in the beginning. Obviously through my own over time expertise, learning how to kind of market myself, sell my actual services. I don't see as much resistance. But with that said, I completely forgot where I was going.
I think
I was looking at the
time. No, it's okay. But I think it's because we're getting better at it, though. You're right. Like, I feel like there's less resistance from the clients, but it's because not only are we getting better at it and better at like representing ourselves and our brands, but also like we're showcasing it more. Like, ultimately, like Instagram, I tell people, I'm like, Instagram is not for fun anymore. Instagram is business. Like, you're there for business. Like, or if you see someone posting like just fun outfits and this, whatever, that's still content creation. She's probably getting paid for that. Like, it's business. And you have to really put on that business mindset of like, wow, that one story that you probably chose not to post today cost you $400 or $500 because someone probably would have wanted the service, and all you had to do was put that story for 2 seconds. And I don't know, I think sometimes people forget that. Like, it's like, honestly, a lot of my inquiries come through my stories, like Instagram.
And because it's more personable. You can reach about somebody. Nobody wants to comment on Instagram necessarily. So, hey, what are your prices and things? And they just they're just curious. They may have a question or two. And, that's the initial point of contact that leads to bigger conversations. But what I was saying earlier was like consumerism. It's natural to hear a price or see what it is, what the value is, what you're getting, and then say, I'm gonna go find a competitor. Let me go find a competitor. And I've had two things. It goes both ways. So I've had someone who has no idea. I educate them on what the price is, and they go somewhere else, and the price is 4 times, 5 times what I quoted them, because I'm thinking of their pocket and how to kind of maximize it, their return on investment. We're a smaller team, so we try to consider things like that nature, and we'll give them a price. They'll go to someone else, get priced 5 times the amount, and come back with a sense of perspective. Okay, what you were saying wasn't that bad. And then there's the other perspective of someone who gets our price and then goes to other platforms and hires someone for $10, $5, but they get a terrible product. They don't get what they want. They get a weird version of it, wasted time because they're going back and forth. And then they come back to me basically saying, like, you know what? I tried the cheap option. It's not for us. Let's go ahead and proceed. And either way, whether someone's coming, whenever they become a client, it's amazing to see, like, oh, I'm so glad I went with you, just because whether it's a personable experience, I made it easy, I simplified it. They end up being happy just because it ends up being worth it when they see what happens to their business, and things are turning new leads. They're receiving expertise that they didn't know they needed. Even going back to what you said earlier about certain designs, if a client comes to you and their branding is trash, it is your duty to tell them this is not good. It's not, there's no blowing smoke up their butt and just being like, yeah, this is great. And it's not destroying them because you want their service. It's just telling them, like, this is not it. And that's literally what you're there for. And I've found, whenever I'm brutally honest, like, your current website is trash, or what you're trying to do, what the services you're selling them, what you're using is not the optimal tool. These are extremely important things to know, to say and to communicate, just because those are the messages that really get through. And that's what, at the end of the day, they want your expertise.
Definitely.
It's huge.
Yeah, I think that happens, I would say 98% every first initial consultation you have with someone, and 90% of the time, clients all have this huge vision for their business, huge vision for X, Y, and Z. And even for a photo shoot, like, I have this huge vision and it's like, great, but just know that's going to take, delegating time for us to set up such an extensive backdrop. And let's say it's going to take a specific outfit that you're going to have to pay money for. And it's just like, then people are like, oh, this is what. So really, that initial consultation, it really is also educating them about what we do and what we can provide for them. As much as they're telling us about them, we have to do just as much back, because, our time is valuable. And I think as an entrepreneur, like, learning that is like, if I'm not making money, I am looking for new clients. And that's what I have to be doing back and forth.
The balance
throughout my day. And if I'm going to take on a project that I already know I 50%ed it off because they couldn't afford it, like you said, it affects our pocket and our business. That time spent, we could have been getting new clients that will accept our prices and the inquiries.
They value you, and they value you. And I've been I was gonna say a victim. I've been in this situation where, especially early on, where you would do something for a discounted rate or free sometimes, just because I'm kind of starting out, I'm trying to build experience. This was years back, but doing something for free or doing something for super cheap, what ends up happening is people don't respect what you do. That's the unfortunate truth, is they don't value your time. It's free anyway. It's not that whether they're not responding to you or not getting you things you need, or, making it kind of impossible for you to do the service. It wasn't until I was like, no, this is my price. I'm not budging. And there was a lot of times where people be like, okay, they'll walk away. But there's a lot of times where people are like, okay, I was trying to get free things, but I'll pay it anyway because I know this is valuable. I just wanted to get it for the lowest. And it's natural, but
that's something that you learn by doing. You learn that with years of freelancing, and you're like, hold on, like, I'm getting ripped off here. And it's like, it's the same thing here. It's just like, I would be like, wow, like, it's real when, like, you create something and you are like, oh my God, I'm so proud of that. Like, that is good. Like, I am genuinely like, wow. And that's when you realize, like, okay, like, this is like, I am worth what I feel. I feel like
100%.
This would have to be podcast number 2 at this point, but I feel like there's so much that goes into that. Building a business, like, that self-worth is like so much rooted into like how we were raised and like how we feel about ourselves. And like imposter syndrome is real as
Yep.
hell. Like it's just like every day it's a new
Daily occurrence. Daily
yeah,
occurrence.
it's like here.
Am I an expert or did I start yesterday?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like a constant feeling. The one thing is like, and what's helped me with like imposter syndrome, the biggest thing is the one saying is that imposters don't feel imposter syndrome.
Oh wow,
And
I've never
that,
heard
yeah, I heard that I think like a year or two ago. When I heard that, I was like, it hit different because I'm like, it's
this.
true. If I was an imposter and I knew I was an imposter, I would have no problem, no guilt, no troubles doing
Wow.
what I'm doing. Yeah, exactly. That's how I felt. I was like, yeah,
No,
you're
I
right. If
have not heard that one, and thank you so much because it's a daily battle. Every day, me and imposter are like battling.
Yeah, and it transfers to any industry, anything that you do. You're confident in yourself, but sometimes things are overwhelming. You question your ability. Things aren't going right, and you're just like, oh man. Like I said, did I start yesterday? Like
Mm-hmm.
I could have sworn I've been doing this for years. But then you come to your senses, and you're like, oh no, I am the best at this. I'm badass. Like,
And it's huge.
that's.
A
Mhm.
huge connection with all of this is that we're talking about this from our perspective as business owners, but this is also something that we know clearly, like we're talking
Mhm.
about it. So we've known it, we felt it, we've lived it, and we have to pass this on. Again, it's our duty to these
Yeah.
clients that come to us and they're like, oh my God, Jonas, I want to create this cool ass website and it's going to be great. But you're going to be like, yeah, it's just not the light. Bye, guys.
That's
Great.
incredible. Thank you guys so much for joining our first episode of the 28 Digital Podcast. I would like to thank my guest, Anngybel, one more time. Thank you for blessing us with your time, your knowledge. I would like to take this time for you to, one last plug for your business. Tell us where we could find you, what to kind of expect next.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. This was, great conversation as always. Oasis Photography and Branding Studio. You can find our main information on our Instagram page, and I don't know if Jonas can like link it or somewhere, but we'll link it in the bio somewhere where you guys will be able to have it. And yeah, just kind of come on this journey with us. We're really just growing our photography and branding studio to be something of value to everyone that we work with. So if you guys ever need any assistance, and like we were talking on the podcast, even if it's just a beginner's guide to what you want to do, shoot us a DM. We can schedule a 15-20 minute call and we can just assess where you are. It's all linked in my bio on Instagram as well. So I'm happy to chat with you guys.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anngybel. And yes, just a reminder to the audience, it's all a conversation. Don't be scared. We're more than happy to help people if they just have basic questions and you don't know where to start, whether from technical aspect, whether you're branding or you just want photography photos and photos of your actual products, things of that nature. Anngybel could definitely take care of you. So thank you for joining us, and have a good one.